We think that there's a huge untapped market of people with diverse backgrounds that the wine industry has not really been a focus of. And those potential customers may not have the cultural background or opportunities to experience the wonderful world of wine. So we think that the diverse wine community is perfectly positioned to reach this untapped audience.
Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. I'm Cynthia Chaplin, and this is Voices. Every Wednesday, I will be sharing conversations with international wine industry professionals, discussing issues in diversity, equity, and inclusion through their personal experiences working in the field of wine. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate our show wherever you get your pods. Hello, this is Cynthia Chaplin, and today I am so happy to welcome Jeremy McCarty to Voices. Jeremy founded Diversity Wines in California in 2023, and it has since become the largest online directory of diverse and women-owned wineries, wine lounges, wine creatives, and wine professionals. The organization provides business resources for its members, and the site also includes event listings for wine-curious and wine-lover consumers to meet live and in person, which is fantastic. So much of what we do is online these days, including this podcast. But I'm really happy to hear how this all got going. So thank you for coming on today, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. This is wonderful. Appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Well, I'm so curious because I know your kind of day job, quote unquote, is real estate. So how did you get into wine? Tell me the backstory. What happened?
The backstory. Well, that goes way back. I guess it all started when my parents were having a dinner party. When I was about 13, we were going to have steak, but on a budget. And because of the cheap kind of cut of meat, we marinated in red wine and herbs and for about a day. And it was hard to tell if the steak was medium rare or pink from the red wine, but it was delicious. And my parents let me have a little red wine with it. And the light bulb went off. So I've been into wine ever since.
You're so lucky. My parents drank beer. I didn't have that experience.
Yeah, and more recently, I was in the real estate appraisal business at the time of the George Floyd murder in the U.S. And although I've been very aware of the systematic racism, that was a wake-up call for me to do something about it. And appraisal is about 80% white male. And so I started a diverse appraiser training program at my company. And now I've combined wine and this wake-up call in diversity wines.
That's so cool. That's a whole nother sidetrack. You really are in diversity. So that this, gives me so much joy because this is very near and dear to my heart. I know before you got to Diversity Wines, there was a step in between there. You were running MyKauz since way back in 2015, and it was a series of charity wine events. So tell us about that concept and how it got started and who's benefiting from the events. Who's the audience, who comes and who gets the benefit?
Sure. The original idea was to donate some of my time to pour wines for charities and help them raise money for great causes. We did those Leukemia Foundation, Boys and Girls Clubs, Heart Association, animal rights groups, and many other charities. We'd have wine trivia contests and raffles to help raise donations. Unfortunately, with a lot of things, the pandemic ended that, and Diversity Wines is the new incarnation of that.
Okay, well, let's talk about Diversity Wines. Perfect timing. So I went on your website. I'm a very famous stalker. I've checked out all the background of this, and I love the mission of Diversity Wines. You said you want to introduce wines to a wider audience and demystify wine culture. You want to promote diverse winery owners and wine professionals to further their business. And you want to promote communication and empathy for one another through sharing wine. So these three things really resonated with me because it is a group of three things that go together. So how is Diversity Wines, making this mission happen? How are you reaching out to producers and consumers? You only started 3 years ago. So how has it grown since you first had your wake-up call?
Well, first of all, there's a directory of about 1,000 diverse and women-owned wineries and wine lounges, creatives and professionals on the site. And so consumers can easily find these kind of businesses in what's a very crowded market. So we support the diverse wine businesses through awareness campaigns, social media, PR, podcasts like yours, advertising events. But as we all know, wine sales are down and dramatically as older people are drinking less wine and younger people are enjoying a lot of different alternatives to wine. I just read an article last night about how the wine industry needs to recruit new customers. And they talked about changing packaging, labels, wine coolers, etc. I'm all for this, but it's very disruptive to the wine company, especially smaller ones, as these are expensive changes and it's not certain if that will result in greater profit. And so, however, we think that there's a huge untapped market of people with diverse backgrounds that the wine industry has not really been a focus of. And those potential customers may not have the cultural background or opportunities to experience the wonderful world of wine. So we think that the diverse wine community is perfectly positioned to reach this untapped audience. As you know, wine is very complex. I don't know if you can think of another beverage or food that has so many different product producers, as many varietals, changes from year to year, incorporates science, agriculture, history, different governmental regulations. It can be very daunting for the new drinkers, but it also makes it really interesting to learn about. For example, I was at a book signing last week for Carrie Boyle's new book, Mindful Glass, and we were all strangers in the room, sipping and smelling wine, talking to each other. It was great. We're essentially a diversity of wines to the platform to provide access to these wineries and wine lounges that people can identify with, and interesting wine creatives like yourself that provide information in an enjoyable format. So that's essentially what diversity wines is about, is providing that format and that platform where wineries of diverse and women-owned wineries can appeal to the the new wine drinkers that really the industry needs to adhere to increase the potential customer base.
That's fantastic. I love that it's kind of working two ways. It's giving exposure to, as you said, wine companies and wine adjacent businesses, with diverse ownership that hasn't really been included in the wine world. And it's allowing people who are curious about wine to find wine from producers that appeal to them. I didn't realize that you've got over 1,000 people on your website already. As I said, it's only been 3 years. So that's very telling of the fact that we need something like this. People who are underrepresented in the wine industry really need this kind of support. So I'm happy for that. But I'm also happy for the consumers that this is available. I'm going to make sure that we get this out there. I think new consumers and young consumers and consumers of diverse backgrounds would really benefit from this sort of a thing. So it's such a cool concept. I'm glad you came up with it. And I know that last month, Diversity Wines partnered with PairAnything, which is an AI-powered wine discovery and personalization platform. I don't even really know what that means. Designed to make make wine sort of more inclusive, more approachable, more culturally relevant. So what's the goal of the partnership and how does it work? As I said, I am an AI neophyte. Try as I might to keep up with it all, I'm always learning more. So I just want to hear what you're hoping will happen in this space. What was the idea behind the partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, we advertise events like the Festival of Undiscovered Grapes that Alison Levine curates, and it's some different ways people can get together on a non-technology basis. We're starting a wine book club that uses the fun Rebel School of Wine book to learn about a variety or a region, and then the people that are in part of the book club can get together, and talk about that varietal region at the book club meeting. We're also doing some wine that's called Gruner's Wine Group, and we're starting up in different areas. People can get together and experience the diverse and women-owned wineries in their area. So we're doing that so that people can all work together to engage people on a more physical level. PairAnything is a great app that wineries and wine lounges can use to have people use the app at their place business, where they can um, you know develop pairings with different wines, so wines that are specific to that winery or wine lounge with ingredients that the customer already likes. And so, as you mentioned, we're relatively new in getting this app going, and we're trying with some of the diversity wine directory members like Omega Wine and Woo Girl Sellers to get that started. And it's a frictionless way for wineries to engage more deeply with their customers or potential customers, and which is exactly the object of Diversity Wines.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think this is an area where Italian wine producers are behind the times. I work with a lot of producers who still have on their website, wine pairings that are specifically and only Italian food. And the fact is, even young Italians don't eat, wild boar ragu anymore. So it's not really worth having these kinds of pairings. And it's interesting, as you said, to be able to pair wines with food or ingredients that people are already familiar with and already like. And it makes the wine that maybe is new for them much more attractive. So that sounds like a really great thing. I'm going to have to get that app now and have a look at it. But you said about PairAnything, I'm quoting you, that they create a welcome with a natural low barrier entry point, introducing wine through the consumer's favorite foods. So is this building sales and a consumer base for diversity wines? Is it, you just started, it was last month. So is that the goal, to sort of benefit the diversity producers through some sales that'll be generated with this, as well as bring in new consumers who are interested?
Yeah. So, what is it? What's in it for Diversity Wines? I guess is the question. As I mentioned, we're a platform for diverse and women-owned wineries. We do have a product. We don't really have a product to sell per se. We provide discount service to wineries and group coaching and PR and other disciplines. We also provide opportunities to advertise, but the goal is really just to cover costs, and our focus is on increasing the wine customer base. And so, beyond that, PairAnything is a great tool to engage with people where they are. For instance, we talked with one of our directory members, Sophia Torres, over at Cremosi Wine Vineyards in Willamette, and she talked about the how she found that many vineyard and winery workers had little exposure to wine, and even though they spent a lot of their lives working with grapes, so she co-founded an organization called Ahovoi to bridge that knowledge gap and also provide a comfortable environment to experience the final product. Without being in the experience of many industry workers, that there are many potential consumers in general that have not experienced or had the exposure to wine. And PairAnything is a great tool to make that happen.
That's so great. I love Sophia. I interviewed her a while back about Ahi Voy, and she was the person who first let me in on the term our vineyard stewards. I really love that term. So many diverse people are working in our vineyards, and as you say, don't have the opportunity to even taste the product that they make. So this is great. I love this idea of, diversity wines is really not about, generating an income for the company. It's more about generating an income for the members.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of unique in that way. Most companies out there are trying to sell a product or whatever, and we're more of a platform just to help wineries and wine lounges and everybody involved in the wine industry that's diverse, woman owned. Just get out there more and be a group that can work together.
Well, I love this. I am very much about building community and supporting members of my wine community. So that sounds very similar to my own philosophy. How can people find Diversity Wines and engage with everything you're doing?
Probably the best way is website diversitywines.com. We're also at Diversity Wines on Instagram, Facebook. And on our website, there's a about section that you can, anyone has any questions or interest in collaborating, very happy to talk about that.
Fantastic. All right. We will make sure that all of this information is in the show notes for the podcast. So let me just ask you before I let you go, what is your personal dream for the wine world? You and I are of a certain age. We've seen things change a lot in the wine world. Do you see yourself going into the wine world full time? What's your next step in the wine sector with Diversity Wine or with a new project?
Yeah, essentially, I'd like to see all the diverse women-owned wineries work together as a group to great success. I don't know if you know this, but 72% of the U.S. drinking population is either women or diverse. Yet less than 10% of the wineries are diverse or women-owned. Probably less than 1% of the wine produced, and so the percentages are pretty bad in terms of that. And so we see a lot of opportunity in that changing, and percentages are even lower in other countries. So most of these wine businesses are relatively small, and individually they have a limited voice. However, together, especially with social media and the demographic advantages they have, they can reach a larger audience out there, and we'd like to be the catalyst to make that happen.
That sounds amazing. I'm so glad that I got to talk to you. No spoiler, but it was a bit of an effort to make this one happen, and I'm so glad that we did. Thank you so much for persevering to come on and chat with me today. I'm really, really happy to hear about Diversity Wines, and I know we wish you all the best, especially with this new partnership with PairAnything. I think that has a really, really useful symbiotic relationship there. So thank you so much, Jeremy. I'm really happy I got to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you. So appreciate the opportunity and really enjoyed it, and look forward to working with you and your audience as time goes on.
Thank you for listening, and remember to tune in next Wednesday when I'll be chatting with another fascinating guest. Italian Wine Podcast is among the leading wine podcasts in the world and the only one with a daily show. Tune in every day and discover all our different shows. You can find us at ItalianWinePodcast.com, SoundCloud, Spotify, Himalaya, or wherever you get your pods.